Perfect. So, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us here today, tonight, wherever you are in the world. I'm really excited to be chatting with Ashley Elston, the author of First Lie Wins. Mine is dog-eared and bookmarked.
I love it. I love it. Thank y'all for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, let me tease a little bit about you for those who maybe don't know your background and some of the exciting things that you've had going on. This is a you're a New York Times #1 bestseller. And obviously, this is our gloss book of the month for April. It was also a Reese's Book Club pick, which I imagine gained a lot of interest as well for new readers. And it's quickly this book in particular has quickly been a favorite for thriller readers, and this is excitingly your first adult debut novel. And it's so exciting that it's already been optioned for a television series. So I'm really excited to hear about more of that in a little bit. Ashley is also the author of 6 young adult novels and is well known for writing smart, engaging stories with strong characters and great dialogue. First Lies Win marks your debut adult fiction novel, as I mentioned, and it's really fascinating to see how you've brought in storytelling into this new space and this new genre. Ashley lives in Louisiana with her husband and 3 sons, and we're so lucky to have her here with us today. Thank you for joining us, Ashley.
I'm excited. This will be fun.
Yeah. Okay, so for anyone who is late to the party, tell us what First Lie Wins is about.
So, First Law Wins follows a woman who has worked for her mysterious boss for the last 10 years under various aliases. I mean, she's a con artist. And so the book opens up and she is in a current job. But she quickly realizes that she actually may be the mark. And so she's got to figure out, who she can trust and who she can't.
Yeah, I'm really excited and curious to know because this caught my attention very early on in the book when you mention it. Where did the concept come from that the title is book like that the book is titled after First Lie Wins? Did you have that theory first and build the book around it, or did it come to you as you were writing and you sort of built it in?
It came to me later when I first started writing this book. It was in that great time of March of 2020, right? We were all having such a fun time. And so we were stuck at home. I had a kid from college stuck at home. He didn't want to be home. We didn't want him home. Everybody was kind of miserable. And I had just finished my last YA book, and I wasn't really sure what I was going to write. I mean, I didn't have anything sort of planned. But I had the opening scene to this book, which, if you've read it, it's a dinner party. I could see the scene, I could see the table, I could see the flowers in the middle. I started thinking about what would they say, how catty would those women be, and I wrote that scene. And I was like, oh, I don't know what this is, but it feels different. It feels older. Let's just go. What else are we doing? We're all stuck at home. And so I just kind of said, well, what would they do next? Well, what would she do next? And what would she do next? And then finally, you have to start making some serious decisions like what book is this? And I've always wanted to write a con artist story because I loved them. I love to read them. I love to watch the shows, the movies, all of that. And so when I decided, okay, well, that's the direction we're going in. And, to be a good con artist, people have to believe what you're saying when you're lying. And so, titles are really, really hard. And so you start Googling things that are like, things with the word lie in it and just seeing what kind of pops out at you. And there was the reference to this old saying that I felt just really sort of nailed what I was trying to say. And because when you come out with that lie, it better be good and it better be believable. And you want people they've got to buy in. And so you've got to win them. You've got to win them over with that lie.
Yeah, it was such an interesting concept, and you really see where it plays in for the main character, Evie, throughout the book and throughout the story. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, it was fun. It was really fun to do.
Mhm. So this is actually your first adult thriller, and I'm curious what drew you to this genre at this point in your writing career. It sounds like it just sort of the story came to you first, rather
Mhm.
than it being an intentional shift. Tell us more about what it was like shifting from YA into adult thriller fiction.
Yeah, in my 6 YA books, 4 of them are mystery thrillers, 2 are rom-coms. When I had written the 4 mystery thrillers, and then I got this kind of crazy idea for this rom-com, at the time, I didn't overthink it. That was the story I had. in my mind. That's the story I wanted to tell. Could I do it? I didn't know. Would anybody buy it? Who knew? But let's just see. And so kind of I handled this sort of the same way. So I had this idea for First Law Wins. It felt adult. Could I do that? I didn't know. Would anybody buy it? I didn't know, but what else was I doing? And so I don't set out to like I'm going to write a YA mystery thriller or I'm going to write let me move to adult and let me go now do that. What is the story that I'm trying to tell? And then I just write that and I think, well, where does that fit in the scheme of things? So it's worked out for me so far, so I'm just going to kind of keep going with that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's working. If it's not broke, don't fix it, as they say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The premise of living under, an invented identity is a really gripping one, especially as a novel premise. So, how did you know who the main character was going to be when you were writing that dinner scene? Did Evie stand out to you right from the get-go? Did you have an opportunity where you were thinking, okay, it could be any of these characters. Who is it? What's their backstory?
It was Evie from the go. She was the outsider. It is, a small town is hard to break into, and those friend groups that have been around since childhood, they just don't let everybody into the group chat. And so, I wanted to look at that from that angle, and how hard would it be if you like, she wasn't just Ryan's girlfriend. I mean, she was there for a job and she had to get inside that circle, and how hard would it be under those circumstances? And it was really just kind of fun, sort of having her hit it from that angle and showing that side of it. And so no, it was always Evie. It was always Evie.
Yeah, and she operates in a morally gray area. And she's a really fascinating character. She can be really charming. She's deceptive, obviously. We also see moments of vulnerability from her. So, what kind of research or exploration did you put into creating that character and someone who's lived so many different lives under so many different aliases?
She was really fun to write because you did have to kind of think about like she is morally gray. I mean, she's a criminal, right? And so she has to break the law to be a con artist. You are going to break the law, but then you don't want to lose your reader because she's just a horrible person. So where is that line? And I just felt like, well, if, not maybe everybody, but most people that she got the better of, maybe they deserved it. Maybe they were kind of bad too, or she wasn't going and stealing from, the school fund, lunch fund, right? She was different type of targets. And then, I think showing her help people that needed her help, that, the football player and not just completely, destroying the politician's, life because he was a decent guy. And I think it was those moments that showed her, she had a line, it might be not where your line would be or where my line would be, but she still had one and she didn't cross it. And I think that was really, really important to show that she did have things that she wouldn't do, that even for her was too far.
Yeah, I'm just thinking back though, it's interesting with the politician and the football player specifically, she did help them out. And then in that, she was able to lean on them in the future for their help as well. And it kind of became a reciprocal relationship in a
And
way, or
that's really
elements of that.
all she really wanted was a family, whether it's, the family you're born with or the family that you find. That's all she wanted. She wanted her people, and she sort of gathered them in a very unorthodox way. But that's really, what she was. She just really wanted her people.
Yeah, definitely. With regards to sort of the undercurrent throughout the entire novel, obviously, the danger, the deception, the lying, did you consult anyone when you were developing this con artist? Did you do any research? Did you look to other media for inspiration as when you were developing her previous identities and her previous jobs?
A little bit. Some of this stuff you can research, and some you just have to say, you just sort of, a character, you just sort of keep working on them. You keep editing that character, you keep adding into the backstory and trying to, and they sort of form themselves, right? There were things that I could research and, not to give any spoilers away, but, the football job right. I went into a deep dive on SEC football and paying players. And I was watching four-part series of documentaries on ESPN. And that was a world that I obviously knew was kind of had some issues, but I had no idea just how dirty and corrupt it was until I did this deep dive, which was fascinating to me. And I knew I wanted some of her jobs to not be your typical con jobs that you see, right? And so, yeah, so that was a lot of research for that kind of stuff. Others, it was just like, I don't know, we're just wing it and let's see where this takes us. The first flashback that I wrote of hers was I wasn't even sure if it was going to make the book. It was really more for me because I was trying to, it's almost like a writing exercise, like let me discover who she is and why she started down this path. Because I don't think you just grow up and be like, one day I want to be a criminal, right? And so I wrote that scene that put her in that position to where she really felt like she didn't have a lot of options. She needed money, and this was her way to get it. And after I wrote that scene, I was like, no, I love that. We got to go. And I didn't even know how many of those I would have. It would be like when I would get to a point in the book, and this is first draft for me. I mean, we're just like, let's go, let's discover. It's the draft of discovery. And so every time I felt like, gosh, I need something here to anchor why she's doing or feeling or whatever, let me see that growth on the other side. And so I was kind of writing them as I felt like I needed them, I guess. And so, but it really helped me learn who she was. And I liked that she was, unapologetically good at her job. And that was okay. Like she was good at this. And I mean, she was never going to join the junior league. I mean, she's a criminal. And so the best criminal you could be. And so, it was kind of fun. It was really fun.
Yeah, I mean, she's driven to it by desperation at a pretty young age, and then she excelled and she knew it. She saw it and she owned it. And she saw that as an opportunity to kind of climb and get bigger opportunities for herself.
She was climbing her own corporate ladder.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
like
just not
we all do.
exactly. Yeah. The plot unfolds in a way that is constantly keeping readers guessing. Every time we get a new alias, a new mark, we're wondering, where's this going? How's this going to play out? So, how did you approach structuring the twists and the reveals? And did you know the ending, by the time you were writing the middle? How did that process work
I
for you?
had I had an idea of the ending. Now I changed the ending a bunch. 7 times I rewrote the ending because it just wasn't quite right. I knew what I was going for, and it just took me a while to get there. The middle's always the hardest for me. It's like I always open like great premise. We're off to a great start, and I kind of know how I want the end, but how are we getting there? So middles are always kind of tricky and hard. The first draft, a lot of it was very straightforward and not very twisty, but that's pretty typical for me as well because like I'm trying to see how am I getting to where I'm trying to think I'm going. And then it's like being able to almost reverse engineer. Okay, well now I have sort of like, a little bit of a skeleton idea of what's happening here. How can I now go back and take this moment and just twist it just a little bit? And now take this moment and just twist it a little bit. It's kind of like when you used to do those little mazes. If you start where you're supposed to start, you take all the wrong turns. But if you go to the end and work your way back, I mean, it's just a very clear shot, right? And so that's sort of how I feel when I get to the end of the first draft, is then I can then go back and find these moments that, are just ripe for opportunity. And so it's multiple drafts. I don't necessarily recommend that process, but I can't seem to do it any other way. I don't think you can see, I'll try to show you, but like this is like my current book, and like this thing goes all the way up and all the way down. Um, that's sort of how I keep up with everything.
Yeah. So seven times to get the ending. How many drafts would you say you did of the book in total? And how long did it take you to write if you'd redone so many drafts and endings?
The first draft, I was in that weird space where my YA agent had retired. This was clearly an adult book. I was gonna have to write the whole book, whereas before I had been able to write on proposal because I'd been with the same, YA editor, and they were just like, "What's next? What's next?" So I took my time with that first draft, and you know, I don't know how many drafts I did. And then sometimes it was just changing the ending. Like that's not working. And there were different sections of parts of that ending. It wasn't always the whole ending. It was maybe who the bad guy was or one of that the woman at the end who's about to spoil it. But the woman at the end, that's kind of a big deal. Like who she was and how she fit in. Like I kept just tweaking a lot of that. Because it's like every time I did it, I was like, gosh, that's better, but it's not quite there yet. And it's like I couldn't see the end. I had to work my way there. It's not fun. And I just did it with I just turned in my third revision for my next book today. And I rewrote that sucker 3 times, the whole thing, because it was just I know it, but it just takes me I just have to redo and throw words away, which is kind of the hardest thing to do as a writer because they're so hard to get in the first place. So chunking them is really kind of heartbreaking, but sometimes they just got to go.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like the process has worked though, and it leads to the strongest version, I assume, of your books being published.
Yeah, I mean, at some point I'm like, this, we're there.
We're
This is it. It feels right, but until I get that feeling, I will just keep, whatever,
done.
working it.
Keep going on it. Yeah. I'm going to ask you some questions from our audience that we've got that have
Okay.
been trickling in. On the note of you just saying that there were multiple endings, that you rewrote it, can you share what any of the other 6 endings were? Maybe
I
not
mean,
all of them, but
we're spoiled. I mean, now we spoiled. I don't know. Did we
okay, are
spoil
they
them?
they all
Well,
okay?
I mean, okay, several of them, 3 different times I had a different bad guy. 3 different times, different. And one time it was just you learned his name at the end. That was the first draft. Super boring, nothing exciting. His name was Joe Blow, whatever.
Mhm.
Well, clearly that's not going to work. Then I was like, no, 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 he's got to be somebody else. So then it became somebody else. And I was like, not good. And then it became who it became, right? That's like 3. There's a significant character at the end. One time she's just sort of random and the things that happen to her are just, that's just very hard to do without spoiling it. She increased her connection to Evie through each one. And then, sometimes she was alive and sometimes she wasn't. I mean, like I was all over the place with her. And so, that was a lot of it, was just getting that right.
Wow, it's really fascinating to like get a peek behind the veil and hear about how much work goes into it. I mean, I don't think any of us think it's easy to write a novel, but hearing how many versions, how many drafts, how many times you've changed things to get it just right, it's incredible and commendable.
I mean, I'm very jealous. There are a lot of authors that plot in advance and have beautifully crafted, twisty novels that they know what they're doing before they really sit down to write. It does not come to me like that, and I wish it did. It would be so nice and probably save me so much time. But some of the things that I end up with, I would have never thought of that without sort of stepping my way closer and closer and closer to it. So, it's sometimes from that first draft to the final, it's a big leap, from where I started. And I had to take the roundabout way of getting there, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, we've got some more questions from our audience here. Kate wants to know, were there any scenes that were particularly challenging to write or that changed significantly from draft to draft?
There is a big scene at the end with the woman. If y'all have read the book, you know who I'm talking about. That in the hotel, that there were very significant differences in how that played out. And then there was a scene kind of early to middle, the Ryan, the guy that he's the mark that she's on the job. There was one scene and it's either chapter 10 or chapter 11. I can't remember because we ended up changing it around, but it was one of those where he is at his job and that was of particular interest to her. And I rewrote that chapter probably 4 or 5 times because I felt like I had to nail that chapter because that's when you found out a lot of why she was there and what it meant. And so probably that chapter and the end with the other woman were probably the biggest scene, particular moments that took a lot of thought. To be as vague and not vague as possible.
It's hard to, get into the grit and try and find out the details without spoiling the details for anyone who hasn't read it. So hopefully everyone here, I mean, I know exactly who you're referencing, so hopefully everyone here is on board with it and
Yeah.
they can go back and reread the book. We have a question from Susan who asked, how did your publisher respond to the change in genre?
Well, I had to get a new publisher. I got a new agent. I got a new publisher. I got everybody was new. It was kind of scary but fun because I had been doing it about 10 years and 6 books. And so this was sort of like, Ashley Writer 2.0. Like we're starting over, like your debut, but it's also your seventh book, and so everything was new. And so that was kind of fun. And they've been fantastic and great. And, you know, I'm staying where I am. It's good.
Did that like starting fresh, especially I mean to do a genre shift, but then going to a new publisher and having a new agent, did that feel a little intimidating or did that feel like pure freedom?
It was exciting because I think the problem why I didn't have another YA idea is because I was a little bit sort of burned out in that world. I mean, not burned out. I just like, what am I going to do now? I mean, it just felt it's 10 years and 6 books. And like, I don't know. It was kind of, like any job gets after a while, right? You're just like, well, here we go again. So this was sort of like exciting, scary because, can I make this change? Is anybody, gonna like, are they gonna like it? Is it whatever? But it was exciting and everything felt fresh and new, but also publishing is such a weird business. And, I say everything in publishing I learned because I did it wrong first. And I was like, oh, that's not actually how you do that. And so being able to go in knowing a lot of just general publishing stuff made the fun stuff fun and the scary stuff not quite as scary, I guess is the best way to put it.
Hmm. And then in the shift from YA to adult fiction, what were the biggest like creative or emotional shifts that you noticed when you were shifting between genres? Was anything unexpectedly easier or harder?
There's the whole element that in YA that you don't have an adult that was interesting. I don't know better or worse, good, bad. It's not any of that. It's just, YA was very much revolved around the kids. I mean, you're writing for children. I did a lot of school visits. I went to a lot of book festivals where, teen book festivals where teens were there. I got a lot of letters from parents who thought I used language that wasn't appropriate. A lot of those kind of things that you have to think about because it's the kids. It's the kids. Can I say, and you can say it only if you're willing to get the push back, right? You can say it or not say it. It's just what's the pushback you're getting. And why is funny is, I could murder somebody in a book and I will not have a single email, but I drop an F word and by God, here it comes, flooding the email, flooding the inbox, but we're okay with murder, that's fine. But, so, those things that all just disappeared. Like those were not issues. I mean, it's just because it's not your audience, right? And so, F-bomb away, no problem. Nobody's coming for you, that kind of thing. And so not that this has more than any other. It's just that was a big sort of a little bit of a shift.
Yeah. Yeah. Did any of your readership from your previous genres and your previous books in YA transition with you to this, perhaps as they've grown? I mean, you've mentioned you were doing YA for 10 years, so your audience
I
grew.
mean, yeah, I would think so. Why is funny too. So why is, obviously teen readers, but you have a lot of adults. I mean, I read YA. I mean, I've read it, I wrote it. You have a lot of adults that read YA. And so I do think some have come with me. What's been interesting is seeing some of my old YA books, all of a sudden the sales have increased because I guess they're going to see what else I've written. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well, no, you're going to, this is why, and so that's kind of been interesting. My first two YA books never had an audiobook until recently. So now, they came out in 2013 and 2014, and they just got audiobooks in the last 6 months. Hilarious to me. Okay. So, who is that has to be the adult readers, I would think, going back to those. I just think it's so interesting.
Yeah, that really is interesting. Yeah, the boost that you're seeing on, titles from your backlist from a decade ago.
I know. I'm
Yeah.
like, y'all, I don't know. Let's not go that far back. Those were early days, so it's fine. It's
There's
fine.
some loyalty there. That's great.
Yeah,
Obviously,
yeah.
like what you've done, and they wanted to see where you started, your origins.
I
Yeah.
know. Just don't ask me about those because I have forgotten every single thing and all.
Okay, deal. Deal. I've got a question from Kate again, who asks, what advice would you give to someone trying to write a thriller that hinges on a major twist?
Oh gosh, it's hard. It's I'm a fan. I love a big twist. Like I love a big twist, but I also love the little twists that lead up to it. And I, th- I think you can have that big one, but you got to have the little ones leading up. We can't just be, trucking along and then bam, those are so hard to sell. And they're not so much hard to sell. They have to be worth the time. Was it worth my time to read all of this? And is that one big twist the payoff for that time? And it may be, and Lord knows, I don't know what the twist is. But sometimes if you sort of, get your way there and then bam, then they're already happy because they've already been engaged and they're already like, oh, she's gotten me. Oh, she's gotten me. Even if they're little, they're ready for it. And so the only thing I say is if it's just the one big one, you gotta sell it. You gotta kill it. Kill it.
Yeah, thank you for that. Great point. I mean, with your book having so many twists and turn, it was really hard to put down. It
Well,
really
I,
builds
I
for fast
I
pace.
think you have to treat every chapter like every chapter should have a tiny little cliffhanger at the end. I mean, if even if it's just, I mean, the tiniest of tiny, but it should be something that makes you think, "Ooh, do I put it down?" or maybe just one more. Because the big twist at the end really burns the brightest when you're already built up ready for it. And I think the smaller ones sort of it's like kindling, right? You're stroking the fire, and you're heating it up, heating it up, heating it up, and then you can still have the big one, but you can't go from nothing to bonfire. I have that's so many mixed analogies. I've used I don't even that made sense.
I liked it though. Yeah. We have got an active group. I'm loving this. We've got another question from Cam asking, do you pull from real life at all when writing characters?
I do. I do. I can't help it. Yeah, I do. I think not like this character is this person, right? But, maybe you take the how somebody looks and, attribute that to one of your characters or a personality trait that is interesting or fun. I think it's hard not to. I love to use real places I know and have been. I think that's super fun. Um, One of my YAs, the bad guy might be named after a middle school teacher I had issue with when my kids were in middle school. Maybe. Just saying. So yeah, all fun stuff. All fun stuff.
That's funny. That's a little, yeah. I wonder if he ever read it and knew.
Yeah.
This is not a question, but it's a comment from Jill who said that she would totally read a sports corruption book, going back to our football player. So if you're ever in need of some inspo, you can put that
I
in your back pocket.
I have three sons. I mean, we're on ESPN all the time around here. There's always a game on. And so, I did love digging into the football stuff. Like it was fun. It was wild. It was fun.
Yeah, I'm sure there's much worse research to do,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Rita wants to know if you could interview Evie yourself, what's the one question you would ask her?
Oh, what? Mm, where's the best place to hide the money? I mean, what are you doing with all that money and where are you hiding it? I guess. I don't know. or maybe, yeah, probably something like how do you stay out of jail? How do you stay out of jail, Evie?
Well, yeah, especially with her run-ins with the police. It just seems she's got friends in high places who can,
Right.
yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. I've never been asked that question after all of the these I've done the past 18 months. So I
Nice.
love a new question.
Well done, Rita. Um, Kate asked, the origami swans, what would you say they represent in terms of Evie's journey?
So that was just kind of something that I didn't quite in I didn't say like she's gonna have leave a calling card and it's gonna have it's gonna mean whatever. So I had, a scene where it comes into play and it was something with her and her mom. And and then I was like, oh, I'll throw it in here again just to sort of, touch back on that. And then I was like, well, what if she leaves one here? And it was just one of these sort of happy little things that just sort of grew on its own. It wasn't something I wouldn't have planned out. I wouldn't have thought about that in advance. But I kept thinking, well, what if I throw an origami swan in here? And then I just liked the idea. So then I was like, okay, no, it does mean something, right? Like she kind of refers to herself as a ghost who passed through, she passes through all of these identities. Nobody really knows her. Nobody's really going to remember who she really is, just who she told them she was. And so the origami swan then kind of became the thing to prove that she had been there, the little piece that she left behind. But that came after I just sort of throwing them out willy-nilly, and then I really had to think about what I was doing with them. But I like it. I think it was a fun little symbolism. I've tried to make them, and I cannot. I've tried a lot, cannot.
As
'Cause
part of
I thought it'd be fun at like book events, like do do do. Here's to a swan. No, I can I cannot do
your,
it.
that would have been good, but
I would have.
yeah,
Hmm.
it's okay.
Hmm.
We'll give you a pass for that. So we know, I mentioned this in the intro, and we know that the book has been optioned for TV. What can you tell us about that? How did that come about?
So that happened pretty quick right after we sold it to my publisher. It went out to everybody and all, we sold it to the publisher, and the next thing I know, we have these meetings, and it was a pretty wild couple of weeks, but we signed with Octavia Spencer's production company and Krista Vernoff, who was showrunner and writer for Grey's Anatomy for a decade. And they are fabulous, like super fabulous. I've done several events with them. Octavia could not be more supportive. She is a very firm believer. The better the book does, the better the chances of the TV show happening are. So, what can I do? Is sort of her, how can we do this? And we've gotten to be friendly. Like we've done 3 or 4 events together, and so she's as lovely as you think she would be, and funny, and so it's been a great experience. I will tell you. So that part is fabulous. I will tell you the other part is weird. It's long. Like it's been years and we still keep moving forward, yet you don't really seem to get very far, but you're moving. And they tell me this is very normal. And I'm like, okay, I'm good. Let's go. Do I know anything? Not really. I'm executive producer. What does that mean? No idea. Um, I don't know. There's tell me we're still good. We're good. I'm like, okay. Do I have a date? No. I don't know anything.
So things are going on in the background, and you will find out when there's a big shift.
At this point, I'm like, just let me know. Just let me know when it's happening because I have no control. I've got no say, really. I'm along for the ride. I've read the draft of the pilot. Fantastic. I love, like, so happy. So I'm gonna keep doing the things I can do and control. And your guess is as good as mine.
Do you know about casting? Has that happened yet?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, then I will ask this next question.
Okay.
In a dream world, we this question comes up a lot in our book club. So in a dream world, if you could cast the top characters, at least Evie and Ryan, who would you want in those roles?
Okay, so I get asked this a lot,
Yeah.
and I will tell you, I don't watch a ton of TV. And then on top of that, when I start thinking about like who would Ryan be, I'm like, well, Tom Cruise is cute. Well, yeah, he's 72. Like, who is a cute 30-year-old guy? I don't know. I really don't. I'm not up on that sort of thing at all. And then there's the other side of it that if I start thinking of like my dream Ryan and my dream Evie, what are the chances I'm getting those people? And then I'm just going to be hugely disappointed. And so I've decided to save myself from that misery of disappointment and not pick, but mainly because I don't know who I would pick.
Yeah. That's fair. If yeah, you're looking at Tom Cruise and then I think you said your sons are college age-ish, I think. So a little bit of a
Yeah,
younger
I guess.
crowd and
But like, who was that? I don't know. I don't know. I don't watch a lot of TV. I'm not up. I am not like a movie star. Like, I don't know. I don't know those people. I don't know. I don't get into that. So I don't know. I
well,
don't
you'll
know.
find out. You'll find out once they've
Yeah.
casted and things are
One
under.
day. I just saw like recently, like The Last Mrs. Parrish, which got greenlit. It's got J-Lo and Robert Zemeckis. It's like looking amazing. They just got greenlit. Oh my God, that book came out in 2016. Like it's a weird business. It's a weird business. Maybe not 2016, but it's old. I mean, it's old, right? I mean, it's been out a while.
Yeah, these things take time.
They
So
do.
we
Yeah.
will continue to be patient.
Ah,
Wait with bated breath.
yes.
I've got one more question from Rita about this story and about Evie. And she asks if Evie could rewrite one event in her life, not necessarily a lie, but something pivotal, what do you think she would change?
Ooh. Like one of her like aliases. I mean, I think she would do, without spoiling, the art, the one where they were going for the art, the painting, because that was very pivotal and not necessarily a great way for her. Um, Probably that she would do that one differently if I'm understanding the question right. I think she'd go into that one a bit differently and handle that one a bit differently.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you. It's fun to get you into Evie's head again.
Yes, it is. It is. It's been a minute.
Okay, so switching gears, rather than looking back, what do you have coming up? What are you writing now? I mean, you gave us a sneak peek as to your plan over here. Tell us about
So yeah, so my next book comes out January 27th. I just found out, which seems pretty soon.
it.
It's called Anatomy of an Alibi. It is similar in genre to First Law Wins. It's about basically two women that, I got really kind of obsessed with the Murdaugh trial out of South Carolina, how just stupidly corrupt, like for generations, that Murdaugh family was. And the housekeeper's dead, and the son killed the friend in the boat, and everybody's getting away with it for years and years and years. I don't know if know what trial I'm talking about, but watching the trial, they could pinpoint where he was. He killed his wife and son. They could pinpoint where he was and that he would walk in a circle while he was talking on his phone for like 2 minutes and 37 seconds with just such accuracy, right? And so I started thinking about knowing that, like if you're trying to get around that, like if you like, I need like 5 hours where nobody's tracking me. Like nothing's my watch isn't giving me up, my phone's not giving me up, my car's not giving me up. But if I leave all that stuff behind and it just sits stagnant, right? That's a red flag too, because who doesn't have their phone or their watch or their car? And so I just need somebody to go be me digitally. You don't really have to look like me. Just go to Chick-fil-A and order my order and go to Target and buy the things I would buy because a digital trail is as good as anything else. And so that was sort of the idea behind it. So I have these two women that, one needs the time and the other's going to give it to her. But it's the idea of when you create the perfect alibi for somebody, only to realize that you have been left without one yourself. And so that's a little bit of what it's about. And I
That,
just rewrote it for the third time and turned it in today.
that
It'll
is
be
amazing.
it'll be out in January.
Congratulations
Thank you.
on that. I've made note of that. Anatomy of an Alibi coming out January 27th. Uh,
Yes.
Rita
So
asked,
they still meet, subject to change potentially, but that is
subject,
what.
yes, this is like an exclusive just found out today. So
Yes, yes. Depends on how well they like that third rewrite, I guess.
just to confirm, that was the trial of Alex Murdaugh,
Yes, in South
correct?
Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Bananas. The whole thing. Just horrible and crazy.
Uh, in that case, do you foresee like taking elements from true crime stories and weaving them in, or using them to sort of shape things?
This one was more of like during the trial, it was just like how his car gave him up, his phone gave him up, like his tech just totally gave him up. And so my idea came from like trying to circumvent that, right? And then, but there is the similarity of a very small town where a family has sort of ruled it with an iron fist and, and that sort of thing. But that's pretty typical. And that's not just those people. And that's a lot of places, right? Especially in the South, especially in Louisiana. So, but yeah, that's why I said yeah, I think everything, like I had one of my YA books, was from the, gosh, I can't think of what his name, Bernie Madoff, right? Like not it was not that, but it was the idea that so many wealthy people, seemingly intelligent and wealthy people were completely taken, he took all their money and they had no idea. And so then I was like, well, what if that was like, but none of those really people really knew each other. It was in New York, and nobody was really knew each other, right? They were just all clients of his. So then I was like, well, what if that was like in a small Louisiana town where they did know everybody, and it sort of decimated this little place. And so, I think you can take something, but then it's becomes something else. That's fun to me, is like reimagining like this crime, but let me put it in a small town in Louisiana where it then becomes very, very, very different because it's not New York and it's not this, it's this, and it's fun.
Yeah, that's fascinating. We've got a question from Kate. What does your writing routine look like? Do you write every day or in bursts? And how long does it take you to write a book?
I do not write every day. A lot of my writing depends on where I am in the process. Like I turned in that draft today and I won't do anything until I get it back because what's there to do? And I cannot start something else until something's finished. Don't know why, cannot do it. So, also how long I write each day or how much I write at a time depends again where I am in a deadline. So this last one was a pretty quick, had a very short amount of time. I did not think I was going to be rewriting as much as I did, but when I got into the weeds of what wasn't working and then it finally clicked, I feel like I figured it out. And so, but by figuring it out, I knew I had to make a lot of changes. I was writing every day for a long time because I had this deadline. Typically though, if I'm like, I don't know, I have a new idea, I'll start writing. I write when I feel it. And if I don't feel it, I don't write because I find that that's just wastes a lot of time. Uh, if I really put my mind to it, I can get a very, very messy first draft in about 3 or 4 months. If I'm like, let's go. But it's rough. I mean, it's so rough. It's so rough.
That's incredible still though. I imagine it kind of serves at least as an outline.
Yes, I mean it's a mess, but it's
Yeah.
if I sit down, if I'm like actively like I'm writing, I'm working on a new story, let me write every day. I don't have a time goal. I have a word goal in my mind because if the words are working, the words come quickly. And so um I try, a super nice day would be 2,000 words. That doesn't happen very often, but if I can do that, I'm like, that was a great writing day. It's really more like 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 words. That's a good writing day. And that's, that's a nice little chunk, So if I sit down and I'm like, let's just write, that's what I'm shooting for. It's not like, let me sit here for 4 hours. Because sometimes I can write those 1,000 word hour and a half if it's just popping.
Yeah, if it's just flowing. Did the deadlines from publishers, did they light a helpful fire under you
Oh,
or
I have to have a deadline. I
yeah.
have to have,
Yeah.
even if it's like my agent is just like, let's have something to show them. I have, okay, well, when? And be firm and tell me that I'll have consequences if that doesn't happen. I do better under pressure. And I think a lot of it comes from have to stop second guessing myself because I don't have time to.
Mm.
If I'm given too much time, I mean, I will reconsider it and I will spend so much time rearranging just a couple of things when I move forward. So the worse the deadline, the more it's like, okay, I'm doing that, let's move on. I'm doing that, let's move on. And I'm sort of forced to commit.
To it. Yeah. Do you let anybody read your first, well, maybe not very first, but do you let anybody else aside from your editor read your works
I,
before
I
they're
do. I
published?
have some critique partners. We've been critique partners back from our YA days from the very beginning. We all had the same agent at the time. We've all moved to adult, weirdly enough, and we have all different agents now. But Megan Miranda and El Casamano are very, very good friends of mine. We've been friends since about 2011. We read for each other. And more importantly than the reading, it's when you're in that first draft, like I'm don't know what to do next with my people. It's getting on like a video call or a phone call and just having somebody to talk it out that gets it. So like my local non-writer friends, I mean, they couldn't be sweeter and they couldn't love what I write more. But when I'm like, I don't know what to do with this dead body, they don't really have good answers for that, right? And so, but I call Megan and she's like, well, how long has it been dead? And do we need somebody to find it? I mean, like legit questions. Like, okay, that's helpful. You know what I mean? It's a different mindset. And so that is invaluable for me, because I need that sounding board because sometimes in my head it just seems so perfect, but it does not always translate well on the page. And so I need that person to be like, I'm not following. You lost me. What are we trying? I know what you're trying to do, but we didn't get there. And so that's hugely helpful for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of other authors, what are you reading right now? You mentioned you don't watch a lot of TV and movies. Are you a big voracious reader then? What are you
I
reading?
do. I read all the time. I have not, I'm behind because I've been on this deadline, but I don't know where they are. They're on my shelf. I've got a stack of arcs to get through that everybody's sending me now for blurbs, which is crazy. And so I've got those to get through. So when I have been reading, it has been reading stuff that's not quite out yet. One that I just read not long ago that I loved was The Ghostwriter by Julie Clark. I don't know if that's on anybody's radar. It's coming out this month. I'm not sure the date. So good. I loved it. This is going to sound crazy, but I also have gone down this whole thing with Dungeon Crawler Carl. Have you read any of those books? Banana pants is all I can say, but fascinating. And I don't know why. There's 7 books. I'm on book 5. I have not read one in a while because of my deadline.
Mm.
I cannot. My 2 sons were reading them, and 2 of my sons were reading them. But then I also on Jordy's book club, he was talking about it on his thing, and the next thing I know, I'm like 2 o'clock in the morning on book 2, and it's ridiculous. I love those. I don't know. I love those books.
Dungeon Crawler Dave, was it?
No, Dungeon Crawler Carl.
Dungeon Crawler
Yes,
Carl. Yeah, okay.
just give it a shot. You're good. It's wild.
It's banana pants, you
It's
said.
banana pants. It's banana pants in the best possible way.
Amazing. Well, thank you for that offer. We've got one question from Jill coming in as we're kind of winding down here. Do authors get paid to write blurbs, or is there a perk or benefit?
You do not get paid. I think the benefit is you make new friends because they're usually very, very happy when you've done that. Obviously only blurb books that I love. I've gotten some books that I mean, I liked, but I don't know. I decided I wanted to be very authentic. Like if I'm blurbing it, it's because I loved it. and it, and nobody loves everything they read, right? And so I didn't want to just be willy-nilly, like, yeah, whatever. And so, but I mean, the benefit is it's a great way to meet new writers and sort of establish a connection. And then hopefully you can send them your book and they will potentially blurb it as well. But no money, but it's a nice, if you love it, it's easy. If you love it, you're like, I would love to blurb this book because I can't wait to tell everybody how fabulous it is.
And then the ones that not so much, it sounds like you have integrity and in the sense that you're like, okay, I'm only going to really hype this up if I really truly hype this up. You know,
Yes.
if I,
And then, and I'm like, I don't want to say I did, I don't want to say I didn't like it or whatever. And Major's like, no. We just say that you were on deadline and you didn't have a chance to read it. And I was like, well, that is fabulous.
right.
So yeah.
Well, it's like someone's taking a note from Evie.
Yes. No, but I have to say, there have not been many that I've been asked to blurb that I actually have not blurb. Not many. So
It's incredible. I'm gonna go keep an eye now for all the books that you've blurbed.
yeah, yeah.
The seal of, yeah, seal there. Just to wrap up, how are you celebrating now that you just submitted, hit that deadline, have a potential hopeful date for your next book? How are you
I
gonna
know. So my friends, because I've been dodging lunch with them for the last 3.5 weeks because of I'm on deadline. I have not showered in 4 days. I cannot leave my house. So they're picking me up in about 20 minutes or whenever this is over, and they're taking me to dinner. And so my friends are taking me to dinner.
Well, that sounds
Like
fabulous.
I'll get dressed up for my Zoom and then I'm off to dinner.
That's perfect. Amazing. Well, congratulations. Hope
Thank
you
you so
enjoy
much.
your dinner tonight and have a nice glass to celebrate. Thank you for
Absolutely.
taking the time to chat with us. We really appreciate it.
Oh
And we
my gosh, this was fun and great questions. Like it's you get asked the same thing, but I had a lot of new questions this go around, so that was super fun.
amazing. Thank you to our Gloss community for joining, for submitting all of your awesome questions, being here with us. Ashley, thank you very much. We appreciate it. And we can't wait for your new book, Anatomy of an Alibi, coming out early next year.
Thank you, thank you.
Have a wonderful night. Take care,
Okay.
everyone.
All right, bye.
Bye.